Hello, everyone, and welcome to our continuing series on diversity inclusion discussions in our CPA profession. You will have the opportunity to see a bunch of different perspectives, and today I am with Damian Rivera, who is the CEO of ALPFA, the Latino professional organization in the United States. And so welcome, and thank you for finding time to join me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You know, diversity is a big issue in our society and certainly even in the world, but clearly if we just take the United States, it's a big issue. It's certainly raised its profile on the agendas of corporations and society. And it's only appropriate, right, that be the case, even though we have a long history of discussing these issues inside the profession, and ALPFA's been around a long time. The fact is that there's still a journey to go through. So give me some opening thoughts you might have, both about what you're doing through the organization as well as just the diversity issues in the profession.
Yeah, so I think of diversity as a huge opportunity, right? So when people talk about innovation and diversity leads to innovation, the way that we are engaging our clients, the way we're engaging our members is helping them understand how diversity is going to contribute to the innovation and very specifically how it's going to create a business result. Right, and if people are able to understand that impact and at the same time, the business result then translates over to societal benefit. Because if businesses are doing well and they're doing the right thing from a corporate social responsibility standpoint, then communities should be doing well as well. So that's how we're approaching diversity when we start thinking about ALPFA and engaging the community.
Yeah, and I think that's a great lead-in because there's a lot of people who have difference of opinion, and that's maybe the beauty of our profession in our country is that we can have difference of opinion. But putting it in the economic terms, sort of the commerce terms that you just described, I think is a real critical component. It's one that we focused on we both serve on the National Commission on Diversity and Inclusion. And that's really where you get sustainable change is when you see the impact from a business perspective. And frankly, the business world is changing dramatically as it relates to the makeup of leaders and owners of businesses. That's right. It's only appropriate that profession, as best it can, reflect that.
Yeah.
Absolutely
right. So I'll give you an example. So I was talking to a financial institution yesterday and started looking at, so the conversation was diversity focused, yes, but it was business led. And so what I mean by that is, in engaging with this particular client, we evaluated what do they do from a business standpoint. We looked at their annual reports, understood what's their focus. So some areas of focus they have are auto financing, wealth creation, things like that. And you say, okay, within the Latino community, 1.9 trillion in spending power by 2023. You say, sounds like a big number. How big is that really? Well, it's bigger than the GDP of Australia, bigger than the GDP of Spain, bigger than the GDP of Mexico. So if you had an opportunity to engage in a community that has a GDP bigger than Australia. Imagine taking Australia and plugging it right here next to the United States, saying, okay, this is a new market. Do you address that? Absolutely,
no
you
question,
do.
Right?
And so when you start thinking about it that way and saying, we're going to create opportunities and strategies to engage the community in a very positive way, right? Understanding that by engaging within the Latino community, you're not being aggressive and saying, we're going to try to figure out how to take away wealth. No. We're going to figure out how to help create wealth through different ways. It could be through home financing or wealth creation opportunities. So that's the way we're having those conversations. To your point, it's the business value, and then how do you help within your company or any group that you're part of understand how you as an individual contribute to that diversity of thought, which then translates to actual benefits.
So in your organization, you do look at the finance professional, which is a broader footprint than just the CPA, but obviously the CPA is a big component of it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we do when we try to look at diversity in the profession is we do look at the different backgrounds because there are different challenges in each of those backgrounds. The black community will have a different channel versus Latino versus Asian as our American Indian. What would you say are the challenges as it relates to the Latino, profession or the background of Latinos as it relates to the profession?
So I'm going to answer that in 1 second. So first I'm going to say, what are some of the benefits of the Latino community that we have in the profession? So I think there's a couple things. One is within the Latino community in terms of whether it's being a CPA specifically or in finance in general, from a cultural background perspective, you have the opportunity as you've learned and gotten your degree and engaged in companies and learning how to be a CPA or going into tax to help companies understand how they need to start shifting their mindset around how they are engaging in the new market economy that's coming up, right? How they could start shifting into digital and understanding how the new way in which businesses are being created, the new opportunities that are out there from small and mid-sized businesses that are being created within the Latino community. How do you engage with them as a CPA and help them understand your value? Well, you can do that in a better way because you understand culturally how they grew up, right? So those are some of the huge benefits that come with it. From a challenge standpoint, there's some challenges that are out there just through one of the problems I'm having right now, even just kind of explaining it, is I focus so much on the opportunities that we have, right? But the challenges that are out there are going to be pretty typical of what you would see in a lot of other groups. If you don't have a lot of CPAs that are diverse, that are Latino, then you don't necessarily have a group of people around you that are able to help you understand how to continue to grow. And that's one of the reasons why this type of forum is so important with AICPA, NCDI specifically. How do we help those that are early in their career from a CPA standpoint understand how to get to those higher levels and make sure that they are continuing to also help others as well?
So what kind of advice would you have for, if we look at there's 40,000 plus firms in the United States, and overwhelmingly, I think the leaders of those firms, understand the demographic issues, the commerce issues like you're talking about, and they want to have more diverse populations. And what I hear is like, help me get there. What do I do to get a more diverse workforce? And maybe I'm in a geographic area that it's not so easy. Is there any sort of stock and trade comments you have from that standpoint?
So there isn't a silver bullet answer, right? But the general answer I would give is think about how you show up, right? In the same way that if you are engaging with a client, you really go in to think about how do we show up to that meeting with that client? How do we get ourselves prepared to understand what that client's going through, the empathy of that, to know what's the situation that they're going through so that we can figure out how do we address it. Think about how you're showing up. If you're showing up and doing kind of spot little things and not having a strategy of how you're really going to make an impact, people will see that. They will know that. They will know that it's...
That goes to the inclusion point.
Absolutely, right? So really focus in on, do you have a strategy for how you're going to engage? Don't do diversity for diversity, just to be nice, right? It's not a be nice thing.
It's the business.
It's a business impact for it, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the biggest thing I'd say is think about how you are engaging.
I always say two things as well, just to add to that point. I like the concept of showing up, and there's actually a piece of showing up is that if you want to recruit a diverse population, you have to actually recruit where there is more likely to have a diverse population coming out of a particular school. And that may not be in your backyard. Mm-hmm. So you have to open up your horizons a bit and say, where are Latino populations coming out of accounting programs, if that's what you're looking to hire, obviously. And so that I think that's a really, really, really critical element. And then the inclusion part, I think, and it's not like just there as a word. It is diversity and inclusion, because the retention issues, how people really feel, sort of going back to you showing up, how they actually, feel inside of an organization. And I believe people have the best intentions. I believe people want to do the right things and work really hard at it. But how people feel, whether they feel included, is not about how you feel about the things you're doing. It's really about who the individuals in different segments, not just ethnic, but gender, et cetera, feel in that situation. And it's important to have those hard conversations to really glean what people feel good about or maybe not so good about.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so much to unpack there, right?
Right.
So from a access standpoint, well, how do you find the right people? And that's where the conventions that we do are a huge opportunity to be able to recruit folks. Then you start going into, once you have people within your organization, how do you make them feel included? One of the tips I would give to folks is think about journey lining and sharing journey lines. And so what we've learned is when you share your journey line, so literally it is a drawing of the ups and downs of your life, right? And you have senior people sharing that with their population, whether it's their diverse population or anybody, because to your point, just having the full group understand how senior members, what their lives have been, then you find little pieces where we may be from different backgrounds, but there's a lot that we have in common, and then you can build off of that. And that creates that feeling of inclusiveness, that creates hey, I can relate to you, and so I can have some really good conversations with you. And it also, for the more senior person who may not know, like, how do I engage with the Latino community if I've never been a part of it before, who, maybe the CEO of a company saying, I'm a white male, how do I do that? Well, when you share your story, people will feel more comfortable with you, and they'll share theirs, and then you're going to find that way to integrate.
That is absolutely, I mean, that is absolutely great advice. Because like it could be something of sickness, or it could be divorce in your family, or it could be, difficulty in raising children. It doesn't have to be a diverse inclusion. No. It can be life inclusion.
That's right.
And that's such a wonderful message, I think, from that standpoint. Now, I'm also a big believer in finding ways to have the difficult conversations. Yeah. We do a lot of that you're relatively new to the Diversity Commission, but we have this policy that says when we're discussing these tough issues, we suspend our right to be offended. And out there in the world today, we have an awful lot of being offended, right? I mean, yes. All you have to do is spend about a half hour watching, whatever news you want, or reading whatever social media you want, and there's an awful lot about being offended. There's not a lot about people trying to actually have the hard conversations and sort of having empathy and hearing other perspectives, and maybe modifying your own perspective because of that. Yeah. You have any stories related to that, or any sort of pet ideas?
Yeah,
there?
I mean, my thought is try to be able to argue the opposite point better than the person that's arguing for that point can argue the point. Right? And so the theory behind that is, if you can argue the opposite side of the story, then you're going to be in a better position to be empathetic towards that side of the story, and then start shifting your opinion. Because what's happening is, search engines have gotten so good, and news, targeting to get you to feel more about what you're feeling, that it's hard to look at the other side of the story. And so I'd say force yourself to get news from other outlets, right? Force yourself to have the conversations with somebody else. And to your point, just and someone that you trust, that you also know has a different point of view than you, and really dig into beyond the headlines. Right, ask those double-click questions, and to me, when you're willing to do that, then you're able to really have some good dialogue.
Right. In the case of diversity, where there's a news event that's involving, let's say, a diverse situation, which we know we get a lot of those, having the confidence really for both parties to have, like you and I, to have a conversation and say, as a Latino man, how do you feel about this issue? What are you focused on? And then you having the interest in knowing what I see and feel. And then,
it's that building bridges.
Yeah, and building bridges, and the real truth is generally not at the extremes on almost all of these types of things. So, well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Absolutely,
it's a great discussion. We look forward to working with you in this role and really making a difference as we focus on the diversity of the profession, and really, as leaders in the profession, and as the profession has such an important role in society, the progress we make actually will help, as you said in your opening comments, society at large. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.